Welcome to TV3 News Journal. I'm Carla Beard. Community Cleanup Day is scheduled for the Alquina Blue Arrow Park. We talked with Brayton Johns about plans for the space this summer.
On Saturday, May 7th, we are having a volunteer day here at the park. It begins at 9:30 a.m. and we'll go for probably, 4 or 5 hours. We're just going to spruce up the park for the busy spring and summer season ahead. So everything from clearing brush to maybe painting playground equipment, helping with landscaping, just getting the park ready for a busy season ahead. This spring and summer here at Blue Arrows Park, we are, of course, having our secondary baseball league that is technically a fall league but starts in mid-June. So that brings a lot of students out to the park, which is a former school, which is kind of cool for us to see all the kids out here again. We are also planning on having a summer yoga series and maybe some other workout series that's free to the community. On Monday evenings during the summer, we're having a walking club at the track, just as a way to get community members out moving together. Additionally, we're offering the shelter to be rented out for private events, and we're hoping to add more programming here throughout the summer with the library and other community partners. So really hoping for a big season here at Blue Arrows Park. Blue Arrows Park is 100% volunteer driven, so we really appreciate your support on Saturday, May 7th and throughout the summer with different opportunities as well as financially. If you have any questions or if you would like to give, you can reach out to us. Our email is info@alquinabluearrowspark.org, or you can send us a message on our Facebook page. We also have a Facebook group where community members kind of talk about the things happening here at the park, so we would love your involvement.
Again, the date is May 7th, starting at 9:30 a.m. Also on May 7th is the Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast at Expo Hall. Frank Oakman told us more.
The Pancake Breakfast is Saturday, May 7th at the Expo Hall at Roberts Park. And we start at 7:30 serving, and we're going to go to about 10:30 or maybe a little after. It's our pancake, annual pancake breakfast. So we have pancakes, we have sausage, of course, syrups. We're going to have freshly brewed coffee, freshly roasted and brewed coffee. Let me say that. And the kids, 10 and under, eat free. The tickets are $8. So for, I don't want to say all you can eat, but it's plenty of food. So, yeah. I will say that 100% of the funds that we make, if you will, from the pancakes stay in Connersville. And we do a lot of things, support a lot of events. We help out the local high school, some of the sporting events. We help serve meals or provide meals for them. We have helped the park as far as donation goes. We do scholarships at high school graduates. 10 or more scholarships we give out every year. So yeah, we try to do a lot of things for the community in areas like that. And so all the money that we make will go back into Connersville. We, as a Connersville Kiwanis group, we meet every Wednesday at 12 o'clock at the pizza place there on Park Road, Central Avenue, whatever it is at that point. And we meet there every Wednesday, and so we'd love to have folks come and visit with us and get to know more about us. We're always looking for new members for the Kiwanis Club.
After a 2-year hiatus due to COVID, the annual Honoring Our Elders Luncheon returns on Thursday, May 19th. Coordinator Mary Ann Morris described this upcoming event.
My husband and I had a party for a long time in the summers, and it always struck me as interesting that people like Jerry Drain and Walter Groening and Harry Smith, and we had about 20 people who were probably in their 80s or 90s who came every year and all sat together and just seemed so glad to see one another. And at one point I thought, after I retire from teaching, I'm going to do something to have some kind of event where people like that can get together. And then I couldn't figure out how to do it. And then when the bicentennial came along, and we were talking one night at one of the meetings about doing something about Native Americans who lived around here. And I thought, you know, they were really big on honoring their elders. And that was just like a light bulb went off. And I thought, that's what we're going to call this. And I called Mike Sparks that night and said, you know, I want to meet with you. I've got what I think is a great idea. Well, we've sort of had it in the back of our head now for the past 2 years, but we just really waited until the first week of April because we want to see what the COVID situation would be like. So we have gotten a little bit of a late start just because we wanted people to be safe. But we think, you know, that they will be. We'll have sanitizers on every table and try to sit people a little bit farther apart at the tables. So I think it will be safe. This year it's Thursday, May 19th. It starts at 11:30. And we have a luncheon catered by Mike Fort. He used to have the Rax restaurant here in Connersville. And he always comes and caters it, and we have some entertainment, and just people just are so happy to see one another that's really the main event. You know, do want to mention my committee that always works on this, the same people, Danny and Diane Flum, and Ben and Rita Brunsman, and Dr. Dwayne Kefauver and his wife Pat. So they've been a wonderful committee, and Cindy Crispin does a wonderful job with all the decorations every year. This year the theme is going to take a sentimental journey. So we're working on postcards and maps and suitcases and things like that.
That phone number again is 765-265-7013. The deadline is May 10th. Celebration in the Ville is slated for Saturday, May 14th. Amanda Falk and Hillary Wright told us about the upcoming plans.
Celebration in the Ville is Saturday, May 14th. We have 126 vendors. They will be operating over 160 booth spaces.
And with the vendors, they're not just local. So we have vendors from 22 cities, which encompasses 16 counties in Indiana.
I think one of the biggest draws is the music. People love live music. And we have 4 live bands this year. For the first 4 hours, we have an acoustic band. It's a couple, Eric and Annalyn Adams. They're Connersville natives. They will be playing for the first 4 hours. And then we'll have a little bit of a break. And then we have 4 full bands. And we have, for the first, we have Sean Lamb and Janet Miller Band. And then we have Claypool Block. And then we have Tightrope Band out of Indianapolis.
And Imagine Performing Arts will also have some music going on their stage located down by the Whitewater Valley Art Association on the corner of 4th Street and Central. And Buck Rogers will be playing music down there as well.
We have several places where people can park. The Senior Center, we will have paid parking there. The Historical Museum will have paid parking. All the city bank lots and businesses that are closed on Saturday have given us permission for people to use their lots, and we'll have signs out, and we will also publish a map on Facebook showing people where they're eligible to park. And then we have the ball field, the T-ball fields. For overflow parking, we have trolleys from the Lions Club that will be going back and forth about every 20 minutes, and we'll be taking people down and bringing them back. We have 2 big areas for kids that are going on over in what most people in Connersville know as the old Burkhart's lot. We actually have a kids' corner there, and it's mainly going to be manned by the National Guard Armory. They graciously got us several things coming for kids to do. We're going to have a gaming trailer where they can go in and play video games, and there's also a TV on the outside. And they have a jousting bounce house. They have a 30-foot rock climbing wall. We'll have a face painter over there, somebody making balloon animals. They're going to have a craft and a few other things going on over there. And then PTC Ministries will be over there, and they're going to have some book giveaways and give away some cotton candy and ice snow cones for kids. Oh. And then in the Oasis, they will have a family center going on over there and things for kids. They're going to have goodie bags. They're going to have a scavenger hunt. They have a photo booth. They're going to have some demonstrations on their little greenhouses. So several things for kids and families to do.
Well, the Bloody Mary Pub Crawl has been organized by Brad Coulter, and it's going to involve Daniel Girls Farmhouse Restaurant, Ozzy's, and the Fantasy Inn, and each one will have a specialty Bloody Mary. And tickets for those could be purchased from Brad Coulter, Amanda has some tickets, and it's $20 per person. You must be 21 to participate. And I believe at the end, are they voting on
I think they vote who gets the best.
Like the chili challenge.
Yeah.
So it's just something fun and something different.
fun. And the proceeds from that are going back into the festivals committee for future events.
Something exciting that we do have this year that we didn't have last year is we have merchandise this year. Yeah, we were given a grant by the Fayette County Foundation, and we used it to purchase merchandise. So we will have T-shirts, hats, and koozies at Celebration in the Ville, and they will be located at Hillary's booth, which is Hildegard of Alquina. And all those proceeds will also go into Celebration of Ville 2023.
So if you see our flyers around town or even on Facebook, we do now have a QR code right here, and that will take you to the discussion portion of the event to where all the information about what's going on, our vendors are posting on there, we're posting on there, just so you know what's going on. We are also posting other places and everybody's sharing, but really to find out everything that's going on as we're posting it, we really need people to go onto the event, like it, and then follow that discussion.
The Fayette County Animal Shelter asks that county residents drop their animals off at the shelter. Please do not dump them out in the county. Director Dave Rickman explains.
You know, a lot of times people call up here, and a lot of times we are full, but you know, you have to wait on us a few days probably, but don't dump. That's not fair to the dogs and not fair to the animals at all. I mean, any animal. Just call us and see if we have room. If we don't have room, we try to find other places to put them. So I got other shelters I can call, and they will usually try to help us out. We usually charge $20 for the cover for the rabies shot. That helps to keep the cost down on the adoptions. Well, if it's current rabies shot and it's good at least 6 months or more, you won't get charged for that.
The City Hall parking lot will be patched and reorganized soon to better comply with requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Mayor Chad Frank explained those changes at a recent City Council meeting.
We realized that we had some ADA parking issues with that parking lot, and in order to redo that, it doesn't have to be repainted, but it's by ordinance on where you park, since it's a city lot. Everything in this ordinance is the van accessible and the ADA accessible lots will be the first 3 spaces where I park, Rosemary parks, and Diana parks. That will become the ADA for City Hall and the police because we have to share entrances. Technically, that's where it's supposed to be anyway. It's across the parking lot, which is not where it's supposed to be. So, and then the remaining south side of the parking lot there along the building will be police parking, detectives, everyone else. All the employees will be moving to the north side. The first 2 lots will be City Hall visitor, then we'll start with clerk treasurer's office and work my way back. So this lot over here, which was all police parking before, we are going to make the south row all city parking for anyone. We are eliminating the very first spot on each side because there's a utility pole in the way, and that way people can turn in and out safely without hitting a car or utility pole. And then the north side of that lot will be pool car parking for the police and then dispatch parking.
Fayette County primary elections were held on Tuesday, May 3rd. Here are results of the local contested races. For County Council District 1, Vivian Heimlich. For County Council District 3, Sharon Cranfill. For County Council District 4, Tim Patterson. For Sheriff, Zach Jones. Thank you for joining us this evening. Now here's Brad Coulter with a look back at the 1918 pandemic and how it affected Connersville.
Hi, I'm Brad Coulter and this is Looking Back. In the early part of 1918, Woodrow Wilson was beginning his 6th year as president. World War I was in full battle and many Connersville young men were on their way to the Western Front. It was in the spring when word of a dangerous flu began to filter across the country. In 1918, many serious health conditions existed. Tuberculosis and diabetes were a death sentence, and 15% of all babies did not survive their first year. Americans weren't immediately afraid of another story about the flu. As 1918 progressed, those fears did become prevalent as the influenza, or Spanish flu as it was named in the early days, gripped the city, county, and the world. The Spanish flu name was dropped after it was learned that it had originated in Kansas. Troop movements and the full dedication to victory in the war helped spread the influenza around the world. Similarities between today's COVID-19 pandemic and the 1918 pandemic are eerie. The rules are much the same even if the political correctness was not as prevalent. One of the major differences was that the city, in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, set up an influenza commission. The manager and secretary of the chamber was put in charge of the enforcement arm of the commission with the full support of the police department. Community leaders were put on the commission with the names Anstead, Theobald, and Hull as members giving it weight. Mr. Edward Tiffett was Deputy Health Commissioner in charge. Rule number 1 was the quarantine. When a home was considered quarantine, a placard was hung on your door by the police department notifying the public that your household contained the influenza, and no entrance or exit was permitted. Most other policies were similar to those of the 2020 pandemic. Limited attendance in restaurants, funerals, and theaters and school events was the norm. Mayor Charlie Ryder helped formulate the response by the city, and other city fathers and businessmen helped sell the ideas to the townspeople. Fayette Memorial Hospital helped treat the sick as the summer wore on. The hospital's 38 beds were usually inhabited by 30 influenza victims. Normally, about half of the sick were without the ability to pay, but local charity at the time made up the difference. At least one local nurse, Miss Nora Snyder, died of the influenza that she had contracted from one of her patients. Just like today, the nurses, doctors, and police were all on the front line of care and exposed to the pandemic. Much the same as today, masks were highly encouraged but not mandated. Some were in full support of the mask, but others were opposed. There was even a local anti-mask league. In the fall of 1918, things began to get worse, and an event that happened in early November helped cause the pandemic to take a bad turn in Fayette County and Connersville. In the wee hours of November 11th, word came to Connersville that World War I had ended. The relieved people of Connersville took to the streets, and the next day headline in the Connersville Evening News was "The city is in a joy riot." A cannon was fired downtown, and an unplanned parade sprang forth. It is said that no member of the city's population was not in attendance. As can be expected, the jubilance caused a lot of additional exposure, and the influenza took off in the county for the next couple of months. Connersville in 1918 was a remarkably busy and happening city. No less than 24 local companies were making parts for the war. Frederick Barrows led the effort to procure local war contracts for local manufacturers, and it is said by all that he had mastered it. In September, a local delegation of 24 made its way to the christening of the freighter Connersville. They rode in brand new Lexington town cars provided by the Lexington plant. Things were almost too busy to slow down for the pandemic. By November, people were getting ill and the number of deaths had become alarming. By December 7th, 41 locals had died from influenza, and over the next month, about 10 more were dying each week. About 30 new cases were reported each day well into January. On January 10, 1919, Connersville was into the second of 3 waves of the pandemic, and 118 homes were placarded, with 342 people sick in the county. By February, the cases were starting to recede, but were still at 24 new cases a day. The deaths affected people in the 20 to 40 age group, and the city lost many of its best and brightest during this time. The pandemic continued to a lesser degree and through a final and less deadly wave in the early 1920. Even President Wilson, who had a stroke in 1919, contracted the flu in 1920, and for a time it was feared that the weakened president wouldn't survive. In all, Connersville came through this period well. The 1920s in Connersville may be considered its periods of best growth and expansion. Local control and cooperation during the worst days of the pandemic no doubt helped Connersville weather one of its greatest storms.